This time we're gonna take it home. Let's go. Let's go. Do it. Let's go. Do it. Let's go. Make it happen. Let's go. Where there's a middleman, you'll find a Mets fan. Let's go. Let's go. This is a Mets year for all your Mets here. Let's go. Let's go. Bring it home. Bring it home. Bring it home.
Welcome to Talkin' Mets with Rob. Subscribe to the channel for all your New York Mets in-game live, pre-game, post-game, roundtable podcast, and all the breaking news for our New York Mets. Enjoy the show and let's go Mets.
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to another Mets postgame show right here on the channel. As the New York Mets beat the Houston Astros in Port St. Lucie 5-0, we got definitely a couple of things to talk about in regards to the pitchers that was on the mound tonight, the important pitchers that are on the mound tonight that we're going to keep a close eye on this spring because of all the injuries that have been going on with the rotation. Those guys are going to be crucial to what the Mets might do in the rotation to start the season on opening day. Also, a couple of guys in a lineup that you like to see step up a little bit is a very, very good sign as one guy continues to rake and another guy who's a top prospect that we'll get into hit a bomb today as well. So welcome to the post-game show, guys. Hit on that like button, subscribe to the channel, and make sure, guys, you continue to roll up on the post-game shows. This is a kind of de facto post-game show with me, myself, or Chris, or both of us at the time. This is kind of a little sneak preview of what the post-game show is all about. We get into the game, get into the lineup, the pitching, all that fun stuff. But what you don't see here is the new graphics we're going to have for the post-game as well. And, of course, a little bit of a different setup, different from last year. So make sure you keep on coming back for more. This is like a little preview, getting back in the groove, getting back to the post-game, going back and forth with myself and Chris, or we're doing solo shows during the post-game. It is a lot of fun, and I appreciate you guys hanging out with us. All right, guys, so let's start with it. Once again, Clay Holmes, another 3 innings for him. 1 hit, 2 strikeouts, 1 walk. In 6 innings, he's had only 1 hit, no walks. I believe it was 4 strikeouts, if I'm not mistaken, in total so far this spring. So he's looked really good. He has really good stuff. We all know he has really good stuff. Again, the thing that you always got to worry about is that he's been basically a career reliever, right? He hasn't started since he was with Pittsburgh, and that was, 7 years ago? So you do worry about the longevity, right? He hasn't thrown a lot of innings in his career, which is a good sign. Not a lot of wear and tear on that arm. But, if he is one of our better pitchers, can he give 140-plus innings for this season? Can he make 30 starts without any hiccups like injuries or missing a couple of starts because of some issue that he's dealing with? That's what you always worry about with a guy like that. And, Met fans, I understand why you're getting excited because we've seen the Seth Lugos of the world who wanted to start with the Mets for years and never got the opportunity. Got the opportunity with Kansas City, and he's been really good. The same thing with Michael King of the New York Yankees, now the San Diego Padres. So there is, a little bit of a transition on certain bullpen guys turning into really good starting pitchers. And look, we all hope that Clay Holmes can do that. Again, you always got to be careful with the innings. Can he do that? Can he maintain 30 starts going out there every 5th or 6th day, pitching every 5th or 6th day and being productive? Because if he can pitch like this, I'm not saying put up zeros every single time, but if he can do what he can do and use his stuff wisely, because he has really good stuff, who knows? Right? I mean, maybe it's a blessing in disguise. And at the end of the day, Clay Holmes is going to be one of our best starting pitchers because we're going to need him big time. And that's the most important thing right now. One, I don't really care about production, to be quite honest with you. It's cool to see Clay Holmes, basically dominate on the mound in his first 2 starts. But I'm not overly concerned about how many strikeouts, walks, hits, runs. It really doesn't matter to me because spring is just all about getting your innings in, stretching out that arm, and staying healthy. And at this point now, I can care less what Kodai Senga does on the mound in spring training. I don't care what David Peterson does in spring training. Clay Holmes, those three guys, you know why? Because they're so crucial now to this rotation to start the season. You got to bubble wrap them. You got to keep them healthy. That's the most important thing. Now, when it comes to guys like Max Kranick, who pitched today, like Griffin Cannon, who pitched today, who Griffin Cannon possibly, I think it's going to be a toss-up between Griffin Cannon and Max Kranick to get that last rotation spot if the Mets are going to go to a six-man rotation. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But looking at the lineup right here, guys, Jeff McNeil didn't look good today. Once again, I just don't like the new approach. I don't like his change in philosophy or thought process about trying to hit more home runs. It does not work. Again, go do what you got to do, Jeff McNeil. You're going to lose your job, and it's all going to be your fault. So it's water under the bridge at this point. Jeff McNeil is what it is. I don't have nothing else to say about Jeff McNeil. He's frustrating. He should be a better hitter. It's not age. It's just a different philosophy, a different approach. And either he's too stubborn to change back to his old ways, or he's just not good anymore. Like, I just don't think he can just fall off the face of the map when he become a batting champion. I just don't understand that at all. But, McNeil it is what he is at this point, and he's slowly losing his job throughout spring. Francisco Alvarez got a base hit today, got a walk today. I like to see a little bit of the aggressive, but I want to see him also. Look, we want Alvarez to hit home runs, but I also don't want him swinging at every pitch he sees, taking a couple of walks while the pitcher gives it to you. You got to take it. That's a good sign from Francisco Alvarez. Again, Jesse Winker 0 for 2. Nothing crazy. Tyrone Taylor. Again, Jesse Winker is not going to wow you with his stats. He's going to be a solid player somewhere at the bottom third of the lineup, and you'll take your 15 to 18 home runs from him and go about your business. Brett Beatty, Jesus, again, AAA MVP. Like, this is what Brett Beatty is. He hits a 2-run shot, just destroys the ball. Again, guys, I can't get so excited about Brett Beatty. Now, what Brett Beatty is doing what he needs to do in spring to win that basically last bench spot on the roster, right? So I'm not going to kill him for doing what he needs to do to impress his coaches, his bosses. I completely understand it. Carlos Mendoza, David Stearns, and others. But we've seen this story before. This guy hits AAA pitching. This guy destroys minor league pitching. Again, so it's so hard for – look, I've been a Brett Beatty fan from day one, from the first time I went to spring training and I seen him playing games. I love his swing. He's big. I mean, he's humongous in person, how big he is in person. He just looks like a ball player. He looks like a guy that can hit 25-plus home runs, right? He looks like an all-star. He carries himself like an all-star. Unfortunately, he hasn't shown it at the big league level yet. I can't get that excited. As much as I want to get excited for Brett Beatty, it's hard for me to do it now because he lost his job last year when he had about 60 games or so to basically show what he can do, when they basically gave him the job when he probably didn't deserve it. And he lost it. And he lost it to a guy that the Mets were trying everything possible to not bring him up to the majors in Mark Vientos. And they didn't have any other choice. So, look, I'm hoping Brett Beatty figures it out and maybe another year older, a little bit of, I don't know, get that confidence back, whatever he needs to do, right? But I don't care if he bats 1,000 and hits 20 home runs in spring training. It's not going to excite me, right? He has to do that to impress guys, impress his manager, impress David Stearns, but it's not going to excite me, right? I know Met fans will be like, oh, Brett Beatty, here we go. Look at him, look what he's doing. It doesn't excite me until he actually does it in the big league level and help this team win. That's it. Because every time he gets an opportunity prior to what he's doing in the minor leagues, he'll be batting .375 with 5 home runs in 10 games, and they bring him up, and he's hitting ground balls to the second baseman and striking out. It's so frustrating because I want Brett Beatty to at least be a part of this roster and help us win. And it does seem like Brett Beatty has the nod right now. Brett Beatty's playing much more better than Luis Acuna. Acuna's not playing bad at all by any stretch. But I feel like the Mets are leaning towards Brett Beatty, and I think they like the potential of his power. Especially when he's most likely not going to be starting in the lineup. You want that power bat off the bench. You just do, right? They project Brett Beatty to be a power guy, right? He is not a guy that's gonna, probably bat 290, but he is a guy that I think they projected him to be a 25 home run guy. You see it. He has just easy power, right? It looks effortless in his swing, and that's a sweet swing of a left-hander. But man, do I love to see him do it at the big league level. But I'm tempering my enthusiasm here, guys. I really have to temper my enthusiasm because I just don't trust him yet. Again, we were talking about Mark Vientos not trusting him yet this time last year. So things happen, right? Mark Vientos looks like a pure hitter, right? We always know he can hit. It was just a matter of defense. That might have been the issue. But again, we were talking about Vientos last year in the same breath. So again, I hope Brett Beatty figures it out, and he's probably going to win this job. If he keeps this up, he's easily going to win that bench spot on the roster. And I'm okay with that, right? He earned it, so give it to him. Now, again, if he doesn't perform, guess what? Somebody else is going to replace him yet again. So nice to see Brett Beatty hit another home run, just looking good in the spring. Not surprised. Let's go to Jose Siri. Again, this is not what you are looking for from Jose Siri, who's probably going to be batting ninth in this lineup, most likely, because of his speed. If he can limit the strikeouts just a little bit and put the bat on the ball a little bit more and maybe take a few walks like he did today, like he took a walk today, got on base, stole second base, a fly ball to the outfield, he got the third, and then eventually he scored. That's what we need from Jose Siri, right? We need him to utilize his speed. That's why it sucks that he's not like a 250 hitter, because if he gets on base more, that speed kills. But he does have good power. I think he can be an 18 to 20 home run guy, no problem, no matter what his average is. He can do that. But and you saw Juan Soto kind of gravitate towards Jose Siri. Every time you see Juan Soto, Jose Siri's right next to him. So I think that's important. I don't know how much that's going to translate to the plate. And, Soto might be working with him when it comes to having a better eye at the plate. If you strike out a little bit less and those strikeouts either turn into walks or home runs, great, right? That 210 average is not exciting at all, but taking a little bit more walks, taking less strikeouts, a little bit more walks, and hit your home runs, it's nice. That would be really nice to see. And that's what we need from Jose Siri. You got to utilize that speed. You can't utilize your speed if you don't put the bat on the ball. You just can't. You strike out, you're not helping anybody. You're not using your legs, and you're not turning over the roster to the top of the order. That's the key for Jose Siri. If he can get just a little bit better average-wise, limit those strikeouts. I'm not asking you to have 50 less strikeouts, even though that would be great. But limit it to 25 less strikeouts, right? Have a couple of more walks. All that's going to do is be on base more, or hitting the ball out of the ballpark. But even if you get on base, you have the top of the order coming up, and you can cause damage, and you can cause, the pitcher to worry about your speed and maybe lay one in there for a Lindor or a Soto or Alonso or Vientos. That's the idea here. So Jose Siri, nothing special today, but he took his walk, he stole a base, eventually got to third base, and eventually scored. So good sign from him. Again, the rest of the guys are Ryan Leaguers, good for them. They're showcasing themselves. So good for those guys, right? That's all you can say about them. Doug says Brett the Met stand. Yeah, Acuna did a brain manufacturing run. Absolutely, he did the other day in last game as well. I completely understand that. And again, I didn't say Acuna is playing bad, but Brett Beatty's playing much better. Like it's obvious. And again, I have none. Acuna can play very well. I still think Brett Beatty has the nod, just based on what he can bring to this team that Stearns might see more useful. And that's the idea. And that's where I think they are at that point. So again, if they can go with Beatty or Acuna, but I feel like the Beatty versatility, where he can play second, third, and in an emergency short, I think they like that better. And I think they like the potential of his power, because I still feel that they believe that Brett Beatty is more of the power guy over Acuna. Because I think Acuna is going to be a totally different player. Not a bad player. I think he's going to be a very good player. But I don't think he's going to be a 25-plus home run guy. I think they still see potential of Brett Beatty being a 25-plus home run guy. I know that's very hard to believe, but it just the potential that he shows every time in the minors and the power he shows, it can just get you excited, thinking like, God, if he can just harness all that and bring it to the majors and do it at the big league level, I mean, that's beautiful. That's great. But he has to do it, right? I still think Luisano Acuna, I think he's going to be, 30, 35, 40 stolen bases if he plays every day. I'm not sure about average. I'm going to go around 250, 260. Nothing crazy, but, serviceable for sure. I think he can be probably, I would say, around 17 to 20 home runs, which, again, is perfectly fine for the player that you're looking for. He's going to be probably projecting to be at the top of the order, like leading off or batting number 2. So 17 to 20 home runs is fine. I think he could be a 75, 80 RBI guy, depending on where he is in the lineup and how many, base runners he actually sees throughout a season. So I think he's going to be a very good player. But what this team needs that I think the bench doesn't have, to be quite honest with you, is somebody that can jack one over the wall, right? And that's nice. Home running, yeah. Acuna does have the speed. Well, that was the issue with Acuna in the minors. Now, some say that he was bored. He didn't believe he belonged in AAA. He thought he believed he belonged in Major League Baseball in the pros. So in the big league. So I understand that they thought that he was kind of lackadaisical, a little lazy. Basically, didn't want to be there, right? It felt like that. But he didn't have good numbers in AAA, right? The only person that was available at that moment, because remember, Jet Williams was hurt. Ronnie Mauricio wasn't there. Acuna was the only one that they can bring up that played middle infield that had any sense of throwing him out there because of the Lindor injury, and Jose Iglesias basically was your second baseman. So you needed a shortstop. And that's why Acuna came up. Acuna didn't come up because he was, destroying AAA pitching and the Mets had no choice but to bring him up. That wasn't the case. The Mets had no other option. So Acuna came up. He was very solid when he came up, defensively and with the bat. But we also have to remember that he didn't have good numbers in AAA. And just because he looked good for basically 20 games, and the defensive capabilities, like you can't overreact. But I still be okay if it's Acuna over Beatty. But I think what the Mets are looking for with the last bench piece is versatility, which Brett Beatty can play second and third, which makes a lot more sense because Acuna hasn't really played third. He's more of a shortstop, second baseman, right? I do like the fact that Beatty can play third base if need be, depending on what's going on with Nimmo, depending on if you want to give somebody off. Vientos might go to first one day when Alonso DHs. You can play Brett Beatty at third. That's what I think they're kind of looking at here or there for certain games. But I think it also provides the fact that Brett Beatty can provide that power off the bench, that potential power. I mean, there's potential power off the bench when he might pinch it later in a ball game. That's where I think they're looking at Brett Beatty. No, Stan, I agree with you. Yeah, Beatty didn't have good numbers in the pros, in the big leagues. Completely understand that. But the fact of the matter is, how do you make the roster when you're a prospect, which Beatty still kind of is, and make the team? You perform in spring training. You perform in the minors. Brett Beatty has done that, and he's doing that right now. He is outperforming Luis Acuna. Acuna's not playing bad at all. He's been very good. But the way to make this team is perform in spring training. Brett Beatty does that very well. Like, we know this. So it's just a matter of when he gets the opportunity as a super utility guy, either in an at-bat, defensively, he needs to take full advantage of that. And I think he's going to win the job. I think the Mets were leaning towards him prior to any games in spring. They were leaning towards Brett Beatty. They were hyping him up this whole offseason. They were talking more about Brett Beatty than they were Luis Acuna. Like, that's a fact. So we'll see. Again, good performance by Brett Beatty once again, hitting another bomb. When it comes to the pitching, guys, to just put this all in a nutshell, we talked about Clay Holmes, but bringing it up a little bit more. Again, it's hard. It's hard to see. You couldn't see. There was no broadcast. Like, I have no idea. Like, most of baseball today was all blacked out, except for like one or two games. Stupid. Like, you can't grow the game if you're blacking out every freaking game. It's just stupid. So again, what we have with stats, Clay Holmes clearly looked good. 3 innings, 1 hit, no runs, 2 strikeouts, 1 walk, 6 innings so far in spring training, a total of 1 hit. I think he had a total of 5 strikeouts, only 1 walk, no runs. So good sign for Clay Holmes. Again, the biggest thing I worry about with Clay Holmes is, can he sustain throughout a season? Can he pitch 30 plus starts, 140 to 150 plus innings, and maintain a very good outings for the majority of it? Obviously, you'll have a bad game here or there. Nobody's perfect. But can he maintain good pitching while throwing that many innings, while pitching that many games? Yet to be determined. So, but it's still good signs in spring training. Griffin Cannon, who at the moment I think is part of this 6-man rotation, if the Mets are going to a 6-man rotation, in and in 2/3, 2 hits, 2 strikeouts, 1 walk, no runs. And that's why if you look at the game notes, I say Cannon okay-ish. The reason why I say that, he threw 40 pitches in 2 innings, or in an inning and 2/3. That's not going to get you deep in the ball games. You'll be out in the 4th inning. And that's one of the problems that I have with going with a 6-man rotation and not getting actually professional pitchers in here, major league pitchers in here. Griffin Cannon is a fringe major league pitcher, if that. That's what I worry about. And that's what he did today, in and 2/3, a hell of a lot of pitches. It looks like a solid outing just looking at the stats for an inning and 2/3, but he threw over 40 pitches. You can't do that. You'll be out of the game probably in the 4th, maybe the 3rd if you have a long inning. You can't do that. This is why guys like Max Kranick, who I think can be in this rotation. I think it's going to be a battle between Griffin Cannon and Max Kranick. Max Kranick, 5 innings, 1 hit, no runs, 5 strikeouts, almost similar numbers to Clay Holmes. So if he does have an opportunity, and this is why they're stretching out Max Kranick, he does have an opportunity to win a spot in this rotation in the back end. Griffin Cannon, They were talking about him possibly going 2 innings, possibly 3. He couldn't do it because of his pitch count. So the good news is that there is a battle. There is somebody performing very well in Max Kranick. If you're not going to go the external route with like Jose Quintana, then let the best man win, right? Tyler McGill is probably in this rotation regardless of what he does. I think he's going to be, as long as he's healthy, he's going to be in this rotation. He's going to be a number 4 starter. Oh, I'm sorry, number 5 starter, because Blackburn's going to be a number 4. The last spot, if they're going to go to a 6-man rotation, and I think they are, and again, you're not going to need a 6th starter until the middle of April, just because of off days and who knows what rainouts. So you're going to have to look at the fact that if they're going to go to a 6-man rotation, it's going to be between Griffin Cannon, Max Kranick, and probably somebody else. I don't think it's going to be Brandon Sproat, explosive. Yeah, explosive. I don't care what he cares. I don't care what he wears. You know, he can wear whatever he wants. Last time I checked, this country has freedom of speech. Who cares? Right? I don't care. Look, if he pitches lights out and he's one of the better pitchers in baseball, I can care. He can wear pink polka dots. And, you know, he can say F New York on his shirt. I don't care. As long as he pitches well, I don't give a damn what he has on his shirt. Right? I truly don't care about that. He can have all the hate he wants. Everybody, you know, a little bit of hate for whatever. Who cares? Right? Let the people who probably don't care about baseball care. All right? As long as he's striking out batters and pitching well, I don't care. 0, you do need a 6-man rotation. You don't have to do it, but if the Mets are going to do it, based on the off days in the first, I would say, close to 2.5 weeks of the season. So let's just put it in a round number 3 weeks. You're gonna have to. It's around April 19th or 20th is when you're gonna have to have, or at least if they want to, use that 6-man. But they don't have to use it for the first 3 weeks of the season because they have so many off days within those 3 weeks that you don't really need. You're gonna have extra days anyway, just going with a 5-man rotation. So most of the time you don't need it, but the way the back end of April schedule is, not a lot of off days. If I'm not mistaken, it might be 1, maybe 2. In the first 3 weeks of the season, I think they have 3 off days, if not 4, if I'm not mistaken, because of the opening days. So 0, no, I understand it, but Griffin Cannon is not making 2 starts for Sean Manaea, right? It doesn't matter who he's replacing. It's just a matter of he is not good. And don't tell me that, making 2 starts for Sean Manaea isn't going to mean that the season is lost. Do you realize that 1 game almost mattered for the Mets not to be in the playoffs last year? Like, that's the difference. 1 game can mean the difference in making the playoffs or not. If the Diamondbacks didn't choke the last series of the year, the Mets would have not made the playoffs. That's a matter of 1 or 2 games. So, yes, that absolutely matters. That absolutely matters. So, every game 1 of the season and game 162 of the season matters when you're trying to contend for a playoff spot with a very competitive National League. Not only a National League, but definitely even the National League East. So, yes, every game matters. So, that 2 starts that Griffin Cannon could make to replace Manaea can matter. They absolutely matter. Don't say that game doesn't matter. When they say, April games don't matter, absolutely they do. The Mets were 1 game away from not making the playoffs. If they had 88 wins, they would be out of the playoffs. That's a big deal. That 1 game does matter. 2 games does matter. Like, it really does. 0, if they win Cannon starts, great. You survived. But let's not act like those games don't matter. Because if that game they lose, you'll be bitching and moaning that they lost the game. Because when you're in September, you're not talking about a game on April 6th. But Guess what? You should be. Because if you won that game in April 6th, you probably don't have to win that game on September 25th. Zero, then you don't. Then you don't care about April. Then April, let them go 0-25, and let's see how April doesn't matter. Right? Because there's no guarantee that Sean Manaea is going to come back in after a month. He might not pitch in April. He might pitch May 1st. But he also might pitch in June. Right? Nobody knows. It's an oblique. Obliques are very tricky. They take time to heal. They don't heal as fast as other areas of the body. And last time I checked, Sean Manaea is a pitcher. Yeah, zero. It might be a plus, but there's no guarantee. We don't even know when he's starting to throw yet. If you listen to Mendoza, it could be 7 days, 14 days, 21 days. If it's 21 days, he's not coming back in the beginning of May. So that means Griffin Canning gets 6 starts or 7 starts. And then you're not going to care that he pitches 8 starts over in replace of Sean Manaea? Yeah, I think you're going to start complaining about that. When Griffin Canning is doing what he did today, yeah, it looked nice in the stat line, but he threw over 40 pitches in and in 2/3. That's not going to do it because the Griffin Canning starts if you would have had Sean Manaea in those games, Sean Manaea can give you 6+ innings, but Griffin Canning, you'll be lucky to get 5 innings from him. And it probably won't happen often because he throws too many pitches. He can't hit the strike zone. He's wild. So he's going to throw a ton of pitches, probably out in 3 to 4 innings because he has 75, 80 pitches by the 4th inning. You're going to take him out, and guess what's going to happen? You're going to have to use more of your bullpen. And that means more innings for your bullpen. Then in the Sean Manaea case, instead, you only might have to use 2 or 3 pitchers. Now you got to use possibly 4 or 5. Like, that's the problem. It's a trickle-down effect. Griffin Canning just doesn't affect the innings he pitches. He will be affecting the innings that he can't get to in a game he starts where the bullpen has to be used more. And the next pitcher, the next day after Griffin Canning, what if he doesn't have it? Now the bullpen's got to come in for more. Now you already taxed your bullpen in 2 games. That's the problem. That's the issue. Right? I'm not confident in 4, 5, 6. Even if Max Cranant does get the starts over Griffin Canning, I'm still not confident in 4, 5, 6. Is Paul Blackburn a professional pitcher? Yeah, he's not going to wow you, but he'll give you a chance to win. Right? Tyler McGill, he has the stuff, but it seems like at any moment he can blow up. And on top of that, last year, why didn't he pitched games, but what happened? Why wasn't he still in the rotation? He also got hurt. So we always forget about that part. He also couldn't stay healthy. And then you have who's the other guy? I'm sorry. I'm losing my mind here. Griffin Canning, you got Tyler McGill, and you got Paul Blackburn. Like, that's the issue. That is the issue. And home run McGill doesn't always deliver. All right. He hasn't been terrible. But when he actually has pitched well, he finds a way to get hurt. Obviously, he's not looking to get hurt, but he finds a way to get hurt. Like, he didn't pitch. Like, and I think he had a 3.8 ERA, which is, I take that every day of the week. If you have an under 4 ERA, you're going in this rotation. So that's the issue. All right, we might not have 6 pitchers. Well, we do have 6 pitchers left. It's not the 6 pitches that anybody probably wants, but you're going to have 6 guys, most likely. And again, you're not going to need them until the middle of April, the 6th man. So you're not going to see that for at least the 2.5 weeks of the season, or almost 3 weeks of the season in the beginning of the year. So now, again, it really depends. Zero, it's not about having all-stars at 4, 5, 6. I know that. If you go back to all my other shows, I've said that for years. You're not going to have great starters or even above average starters 4, 5, and 6. But the problem is when you don't really have very good top of the rotation starters, and those guys, if one of those guys go down and your rotation is already questionable as it is, And now you got injuries to guys like Frankie Montas, who can definitely give you 140 plus innings, 150 plus innings. Now you're replacing him with a Griffin Cannon who nearly had a 6 ERA. You're replacing him with a Tyler McGill who can be okay, but who knows? And then a Paul Blackburn who should be your 6th starter is now your 4th starter. Like you have to worry about that a little bit. Yeah, okay. I don't care about 25 years ago. 25 years ago was a hell of a lot different. The Mets offense was outstanding. Was really damn good. But again, you just made my point. Mike Hampton was an ace. Where's your ace? You don't have one. Sean Manaea is still not an ace. Whatever people might want to say, he's not. All right, he's not. He had one outstanding season. And all those innings and then new mechanics probably got him hurt. So until he makes an actual start, we'll see. Hopefully he only misses a couple of starts. Let's hope so. We all want to see him on the mound. But could we be honest here? Sean Manaea is not an ace. Like, he's not. I'm sorry to burst everybody's bubble. He's not. He's just not. Kodai Senga was out the entire season. He has ace-like stuff, but he needs to pitch once a week to actually get on the mound and pitch. So that doesn't excite me. I need my ace to be there every 5th day. I don't need him every 6th day or 7th day, and hopefully he stays healthy and then pitch well once a week. So those 4 starts a month, instead of somebody who pitches every 5th day, you might have 5 or 6, depending on the month, starts in that month. So, like, I don't know. Look, I think the offense and the bullpen is going to mask a lot of the issues the starting rotation is going to have, which is fine, which is okay. But the issue is going to be when you got Blackburn and McGill and Cannon, guys who are not very much innings eaters, you're going to use a lot of your bullpen early. And we all know what happens when you use your bullpen a ton early. Just go back to last year. Early on in the season, the Mets rotation wasn't going deep because they were throwing a lot of pitches. They were walking the ballpark. The bullpen was coming in way too early, getting overused. And then when it came down to needing them, when the starting pitcher was better and they were going longer and you were using your guys later in the ballgame, they were already burnt out. The bullpen was a huge problem. Yeah, we had injuries, but still. Domenico, I think you can win without aces. But again, let's not act like the Dodgers weren't throwing Yamamoto and Jack Flaherty in these games and Walker Buehler. Okay, let's not act like they were not pitching in series. They were. The Mets didn't have a Yamamoto. They didn't have a Jack Flaherty or even a Walker Buehler for that matter, who all pitched well in the playoffs. Now, Manaea pitched well. He got burnt out. When he got to the NLCS, he was burnt. And I'm not blaming him for it. He was one of the reasons why we got to where we got to. But look at everywhere. Look at the playoffs. Just look at it. Like, we act like the Dodgers had, you and me pitching for them. Yamamoto still made starts. Flaherty still made starts. Walker Buehler made starts. No, I didn't say Flaherty was an ace. But guess who pitched very well in the playoffs? It was those 3 guys. The clincher in the World Series, Walker Buehler, was on the mound. Like, so look, the fact of the matter is that I don't think when you get to the playoffs, like, here's where I'm going to say. When you don't have an ace is when a guy who hasn't pitched all season in Kodai Senga was considered for game 1 of the playoffs when Sean Manaea was on regular rest. If he was an ace, why would you even think about Kodai Senga in game 1? You know why? Because he's not. Doesn't mean he's not a good pitcher. But go back to the last couple of World Series. champions. Who didn't have an ace? Guarantee you every one of them did. Like, the Texas Rangers a couple of years ago, Nathan Eovaldi stepped up big time in the playoffs, right? Yamamoto, excellent in the playoffs. He basically was their best pitcher in the playoffs. Damn sure the Mets couldn't touch him. 0? No. Nathan Eovaldi was an ace. Look what he did in the playoffs. I'm talking about guys who stepped up. And Nathan Eovaldi has been a top of the rotation guy for a decent amount of years now. Eovaldi is not an ace. Look at his numbers. Guarantee you, better than Manaea over the last 3 seasons. Eovaldi was outstanding in the playoffs. Outstanding. He was one of the reasons why the Rangers got to where they got to. The offense clearly helped, but he pitched outstanding. Outstanding. So, again, it's not the end of... I don't think the rotation is going to ultimately kill this team during the season. I think the lineup is too good and the bullpen is much stronger. I'm not talking about getting to the playoffs. I think this team can get to the playoffs. But when you get, because this is the point, right? When you get to the playoffs, because you should make the playoffs. I'm sorry, your offense should be top 5 in baseball, if not top 3. Your bullpen should be much better than it was last year. So putting those two together should get you into the playoffs. If you want to talk about division or wild card, who cares? You get into the playoffs. But when you get there, yes, offense does matter. But you also got to pitch pretty well. The Dodgers beat us. Yeah, they beat the hell out of our pitching. But why was that? Because Luis Severino was a shell of himself in the playoffs, right? Jose Quintana was your best pitcher in the playoffs. Go figure. Manaea was excellent in the Philly game, but, it wasn't great. And then when you needed him in the NLCS, he was just burnt out. I'm not blaming him, but it's a fact. You need that guy you can go to and say, that's my guy. That's my guy that I know. He goes on the mound. I'm very confident we're going to win. Now, it doesn't always happen, but, come on, guys. Like, we do act like this rotation is, like, top of the line. Like, come on. This actually part of with Manaea as well last year, they were the highest walks in baseball. Manaea was a part of that. He walked a ton of people as well. So again, it's irrelevant to talk about Sean Manaea right now because he's not pitching. Once he actually steps on a mound and starts throwing to ramp himself up and get through minor league games, because he might not even be back by the end of spring. Let's hope he is. But until he starts throwing pain-free, I don't want to hear Sean Manaea's name out of anybody's mouth because it's irrelevant. Until he starts throwing and he's pain-free, Manaea is not a part of this rotation. You can't think like that. It sounds like DeGrom all over again. How many times have we waited for DeGrom to come back? Oh, he's warming up. Oh, he's going to come back. He's going to start throwing. And then he throws. Oh, something happened. And I'm not trying to, relate DeGrom's injuries to Manaea's injuries. But when it comes to obliques, it's very tricky, especially with a pitcher. Especially with a pitcher that changes mechanics in the first time in his career. Changes mechanics and thrown that many innings. And the last time he threw that many innings, I think it was like 2021, if I'm not mistaken. And if it wasn't that, it was 2019. So you have to think that has something to do with that. So, no, I'm not saying he's DeGrom Hellways. I'm talking about the fact that when we're talking about Sean Manaea like he's going to be back in the beginning of May. We don't know that. Like, we're putting things into existence that aren't true. We don't know. Once he starts throwing pain-free, That's when we know. That's when we have a date he started throwing, and it'll probably take about a month give or take, to ramp himself back up. So if 21 days from now, let's just do the math. 21 days from now is what? Almost the middle of March. So he's going to probably a little bit more than that. It's probably around, let's say, March 22nd is when he starts throwing. He's going to need about 4 or 5 starts, which is going to take you to May, hopefully. And that's if all his workouts and all his starts in the minors and then, the backfields of spring training all come back fine and healthy, and that oblique doesn't act up again. That that all needs to happen within that time. Dwayne, it's a possibility. I'm not going to say he ain't going to be here in May 1st. But to act like we're talking like Sean Manaea is going to be back, and I forgot who it was. I do apologize. Zero, who says, I'm not going to care about Griffin Cannon's 2 starts replacing Sean Manaea. But we don't know if it's only going to be 2 starts. It could be 7 starts. That's a problem. Yeah, I understand that. But guess what? Manaea, Severino, and Jose Quintana all pitched 30 starts last year. 30 plus starts. 30 or more starts last year. In total, Manaea, Severino, and Quintana thrown over 500 innings last year combined. Pretty good chance that Manaea is not going to do that now. Probably close to 130, hopefully. 140, maybe. And Kodai Senga, they're going to baby the hell out of him, probably for the first 2 months of the season. So he's not going to throw a ton of innings. Hopefully David Peterson can handle the innings that he provided us last year and pitch well, because you're not going to get the innings from McGill, you're not going to get the innings from Cannon, and you're probably not going to get most of the innings from Blackburn. That's the problem. That is the problem. Well, Zero. So why are we talking about Manaea like he's going to be pitching to a 3 ERA? So if he has followed a good season by a mediocre season, then we're very much in trouble. Zero, I agree with you about David Peterson. I just hope that, throwing that many innings right after hip surgery, hopefully he can repeat that. That's the important thing. We don't know. And that's what you have to worry about. Well, Zero, you're making my point. Yeah, I think Manaea is probably a number 3. I would say at best a number 2. So I think that's the issue, buddy. And again, it's agreeing to disagree here. Like, we all want everybody healthy. We want to win 110 games, make the playoffs, and win the World Series, right? I think everybody would be okay with that, right? I don't think anybody's going to complain about that. But, the issue that I've always had, and Met fans are very prone to doing this, and I'm not excluding myself from this. I will include myself at this at times. The fact of the matter is, when everybody's like, oh, well, you don't need a really good rotation or aces, an ace of a rotation to, win. And then when we start losing during, like now, right? We were talking about Dylan Cease. We were talking about, Luis Castillo, pitchers that we can, top line starters that we can trade for. Nobody wants to trade top prospects. But I guarantee you, if the rotation is the problem, the Mets are losing games in the first half of the season. You know what? The same people that didn't want to trade for those guys because of the prospects are going to say we need starting pitching at the deadline. And what do you think is going to happen? Are you going to be willing to give up the prospects now? So let's say Dylan Cease is a possibility. You could have got him in the offseason. Well, he could have thrown you 30 starts. So you didn't want to give up prospects. Okay, great. Now the deadline comes. The rotation is a glaring need. So Dylan Cease pops up again. What do you think you're going to give up? Peanuts, Cracker Jacks, and a hot dog? No, you're going to give up prospects. But now you're only going to have Dylan Cease for 12 to 15 starts instead of the 30 starts if you got him in the offseason. That is the problem. Yeah, Zero, I disagree. I disagree. Because if Cease can win you a World Series, I'm not saying Cease is the best pitcher ever in baseball and, he's God. But when you got Cease going every fifth day over a Griffin Cannon, you're probably going to win more games. Like, let's be honest about that. And I don't care if it's a rental. Yoenis Cespedes was a rental. We gave our number 1 overall pitching prospect, in Michael Fulmer. So let's not. Did anybody care? No. You know why? Because we got to the World Series. That's why. And Cespedes was a big reason because of that. Like, I just don't understand. Like, we're so afraid to trade prospects. Oh my God, it's a rental. Jesus Christ. But if Dylan Cease comes here and help us win and get to a World Series and win a World Series, why does anybody care? Yeah, they signed Cespedes, but they traded him when he was a rental. They didn't sign him during the year. So let's not act like Cespedes, because we already know what happened after, doesn't mean that we knew we were going to sign Cespedes after that season. He was a rental. Go back to when Sandy Alderson, go back to 5 days in Flushing when Alderson talked about it. He didn't want to get Yoenis Cespedes, 1, because he was a rental. 2, they didn't like his approach at the plate and didn't think that they can play certain positions in the outfield. That's what they were concerned about. But the number 1 thing was that the Tigers were asking for our number 1 overall prospect for Cespedes. Alderson didn't want to do it until basically the last minute of the deadline, because Jay Bruce went off the table, Justin Upton went off the table, and there was no other choice but Yoenis Cespedes. Alderson pulled the trigger. And at the time, he was a rental. Just because we know we signed him, we didn't know in 2015 of July 31st and August 1st, when he actually played a game, that we actually were going to sign him. He was a rental. But nobody gave a damn when we were running through the playoffs, beating up the Dodgers, embarrassing the Cubs, and getting to a World Series against Kansas City. Nobody cared. Nobody cares. Yeah, Dominico, exactly. They traded 72 pitchers to get Juan Soto from San Diego? He was a rental. Now, I truly think that the Yankees are so cocky and, blind sometimes that they think, oh, we get Juan Soto, he puts on the pinstripes and he's going to wear it, for the end of time. Their cockiness got the best of them, and haha to them. But you do that because that guy could make you win a World Series. I'm not saying Dylan Cease, you get Dylan Cease, buy your World Series tickets, let's go to the Canyon of Heroes in New York, in Manhattan, and let's start celebrating. Let's have the champagne on ice already. I'm not saying that. But I'm sorry. I'd rather see Dylan Cease on the mound in the playoffs in game 1 of any series than any pitcher we have right now in this rotation. Sorry to say. If you don't think that, you are absolutely nuts. Dylan Cease has been a better pitcher than anybody in this Mets rotation throughout their career. And he's still damn good. 0, it is if you're going to win. You don't know that when that happens. But what, you're not going to do that? So what you're going to do? Do you know the guys that are usually available at the deadline are rentals? Most of the starting pitchers. It's rare that you're going to have guys that are still going to be on the contract after 1 year. So there's your issue, and it's pouring outside in North Carolina. I'm sorry, guys. I had the window open. It was nice, and now it's pouring, and I was getting wet. I'm like, what the hell's going on? I feel like I'm at Citi Field, and the rain the clouds just open. Jesus, sorry, guys. River, I completely understand that. I'm not saying to give up Sprout, right? But you could have enticed them a little bit more by giving a Jet Williams, a Ronnie Mauricio, maybe even a Ryan Clifford. You could have really enticed him. And again, let's stop talking about Ronnie Mauricio and Jet Williams like they're just going to be on this team and starting every single day, because there's not much room for them. There's one position for these guys, and that's second base. You got 4 guys for that position. Right now, you have 4 guys. You can't use them all. They all can't stand on second base and play. Yeah, Stearns has to build for now and later. Wonderful. But don't you already have that? right? Last time I checked, Alonso was homegrown, Nimmo was homegrown, Alvarez was homegrown, McNeil was homegrown, Vientos is homegrown. How many more homegrown guys you want? Right? You sign Nimmo to like a 47-year deal where you sign him as a center fielder. He's your left fielder now. So he's going to be here for the next 6 years. You got Lindor here for another 7 years at shortstop. You got Vientos here, who's going to be at least here for at least 4 or 5 more years because he's still under that rookie deal. You got Alvarez as your catcher here for another 4 years, 3-4 years. So, like, there's not a lot of room for these guys. There's a pretty good chance that if Pete Alonso's not going to come around, you might have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. as your first baseman for the next 10 years. Like, that's also a possibility. Like, we fall in love. Like, we all forget that the Dodgers, the Rangers, the Braves traded top prospects, got better at deadlines, much better at deadlines, because they were willing to trade guys. I just don't like. Do you want another Paul Blackburn at the deadline? Congratulations. That ain't winning new shit. I'm sorry. I didn't say Cease was homegrown. All right. So you know what? Guess what? You get him for the rental at the moment and you sign him after the season. What's the problem with that? If Stearns don't want to do it, then he's an idiot. Sorry. I'm sick of just giving short-term deals to mediocre pitchers. You need one guy that you can bite the bullet and give a long-term deal to that can be at the top of your rotation. These short-term deals don't cut it. I'm sorry. They just don't work. Like, it's not like they're immune from injury. I'm sorry. If you're going to give a guy an 8-year deal and he gives you 5 great years, who cares about the other 3? Let me ask you something. When the Yankees got CC Sabathia and signed him to that long-term deal, they won a World Series with CC Sabathia. Do you think they cared about the other years? Absolutely not. Now, maybe because they're the Yankees and they expect to win every single year. But I'm sorry. If you get Dylan Cease and you win a World Series and you sign him to a 6-year deal, well, you already got a World Series. And I'm not saying you don't want to win anymore, but it was worth it. All right, Fireblazing, who do you want? Who do you want? That's the problem. Right? Cease is better than everybody in this rotation. Everybody in this Mets rotation. They are staying. It doesn't matter if they're staying together long because they got Yamamoto, they got Sasaki, they got Blake Snell. Like, they're fine. The fact of the matter is, I know, yeah, they might be getting older, but I know what the Dodgers are going to do. They're going to spend on somebody else and get somebody that's a little younger and probably one of the better players in baseball. Right? You don't think the Dodgers are going to be on Vladimir Guerrero Jr.? Freddie Freeman, what has he got? 2 more years left on his deal? He's getting older. You don't think the Dodgers are going to be on Vladimir Guerrero Jr.? Would anybody be shocked if they land Vladimir Guerrero Jr.? I wouldn't be. All right, guys. So you're taking Senga over Cease. You're dumb. Sorry. You are. Kodai Senga can't pitch every 5th day. Look at his ERA when he pitches on normal MLB rest every 5th day. He has a 5 ERA. He had 1 season of really, really good stuff and pitched extremely well in 2023, right? No pressure. The Mets were basically dead and buried. So he pitched, and then on top of that, he had a couple of games where he pitched on 4 days rest and pitched on the 5th day. Terrible numbers. When he pitched on a 6th day and 7th day, when he had 5 or 6 days rest, he was outstanding. It's not sustainable. Do you think Kodai Senga is going to pitch on short rest and be good? You're out of your mind. Sorry. Zero. I agree with you. But here's the problem. Cease can pitch every 5th day and pitch pretty damn well. I'm pretty sure he can go out there on short rest and pitch and probably pitch decent and probably most likely well. There's no guarantee because there's no evidence at all that Kodai Senga in a short, let's just say the Mets are in the NLDS, right? They're in the NLDS. Woohoo! Let's go. Right? You got to win 3 games. You get to a game 5. Is he going to pitch on just regular 4 days rest and pitch game 1 and 5? They might throw him out there because it's probably their best chance. But there's been no evidence that he actually pitches well at all with regular rest. So that's what you're talking about here. No, Cease is better than Kodai Senga. Cease is better than everybody in this Mets rotation. If you don't believe that, you're just nuts. Here's what you're doing. You're lying to yourself. You are. I'm not saying Kodai Senga is a bad pitcher at all. But what you need from him, you're never going to get. Why are the Mets going to a 6-man rotation? Because they love Griffin Cannon and Tyler McGill? No. They're going to a 6-man rotation because Kodai Senga can't pitch on normal 4 days rest and pitch on the 5th day. That's been proven. If he could, they wouldn't do a 6-man rotation. Great, Zero. And Kodai Senga isn't that as just a regular 5-day pitching every 5th day. He's just not. Cease is a solid number 2. I'm not saying he's an ace of. I never said that. I'm saying he's a top of the line starter who actually pitches every 5th day. That's why he's a better pitcher. Just because you're a good pitcher, like Kodai Senga should be if healthy, he's not reliable enough. You need him every 6th or 7th day? Congratulations. Because he is a guy that when you're going to need him in the playoffs, what are you going to give him? 6 days rest? He's going to pitch game 1 and 7 when most guys who are your best pitchers probably pitch on short rest probably 3 times in a 7-game series. Definitely twice. Like, you want Kodai Senga pitching game 1 and 6 because he can't go game 1 or 5 and 5? That's concerning. That is really concerning to me. I love Senga's stuff. But the problem with Kodai Senga is that when the Mets gave him an opportunity to pitch on a 5th day with only 4 days rest, he has over a 5 ERA. Don't tell me he's a top-line starter when he can't even do that. Sorry, that's part of the job. And again, we're seeing Griffin Cannon. We're seeing Tyler McGill because they have to go to a 6-man rotation because Kodai Senga can't pitch every 5th day and pitch well. And on top of that, we don't even know if he can stay healthy because he's been out an entire year and pitched, 5 innings last year? The good news is I hope Kodai Senga pitches like a freaking ace. But you'll see him once a week because he probably can't do every 5th day. This is not something that I want to happen, but it's reality. Go fact check yourself. Kodai Senga doesn't pitch well on 4 days rest. So don't expect him to do it in the playoffs. And even if they try to, he probably won't pitch good because there's no evidence that he can. And if he pitches the whole season on 5 days rest and pitch every 6th day, don't you think he's going to be used to pitching with an extra day rest? And then you're going to tell him, hey, it's NLDS. You got to pitch game 1 and 5. Yeah, but, Yeah, and wasn't good. Why do you think that is? If he could do it, they wouldn't go to a 6-man rotation. Even when they didn't have a 6-man rotation in 2023, every time they made sure he had an extra day rest. Because if he could pitch every 5th day, he would. Let's not make something it's not, guys. The fact of the matter is he can't pitch every 5th day. And even if they might think he could, they don't trust him to do so. And on top of that, we don't know if he can stay healthy. So, with all of that said, let's go out and win a World Series. How about that? But it's only February 27th. We got a whole month until opening day. So we get to talk about this all more. So once again, guys, I do appreciate you tuning into another Mets postgame show. right here on the channel, guys. Always a great conversation. Agree to disagree, disagree to agree. Whatever you want to do, it's cool. It's a great conversation to have. But oh yeah, that's great, Joe. So with that said, have a good night. Where I'm living in North Carolina, it is pouring, windy, and going nuts. So welcome to the South. Have a good night, guys. I will probably do another show tomorrow, Friday. Actually, no, I won't because I'm traveling to New York. I forgot about that. Sorry. So I won't be doing that. I'll be tracking up north 8 hours to New York tomorrow. So I won't be doing a show tomorrow. Apologize for that. So have a good night, guys. Let's go, Mets. Great conversations. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel, guys. And I'll see you next time on the channel, guys. Good night, guys. Let's go, Mets.
City lights in the dead of night, full of echo. Concrete jungle, dreams bust to grow. Mets in the air, chase glory, no fear. Broken backs, but hearts steer clear. OMG, the chaos, what a scene. Streets buzzing like a machine.